What if your goodness is hurting people? What if your open door, your ever-available shoulder, your willingness to fix, fund, and carry has become a soft velvet cage? Comfortable, yes, but a cage nonetheless. Culture loves a simple story. Helping is always right. Saying yes is love. Boundaries are selfish. But life keeps offering a stranger, sharper parable. Again and again you rescue, and then notice the person you rescued is less capable, less honest, less grateful than before. Again and again you pour, and somehow the cup becomes a hole in the ground. Have you ever felt that your constant giving made things worse instead of better? Comment 1 if you've poured endlessly into someone and felt depleted. Comment 2 if you've learned to step back and witnessed surprising growth in your absence. Alan Watts, the playful philosopher of paradox, once said, "Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone." You feel the friction of that sentence because it undermines a cherished assumption that intervention is inherently virtuous. But what if the deepest form of care includes non-interference? What if the cosmos itself teaches through consequence, through the rough polish of experience, and your frantic rescue interrupts the lesson? If the surface of a pond settles when we stop stirring it, perhaps people sometimes settle when we stop stirring them. Watts often warned us about the illusion of the skin-encapsulated ego, the idea that you and I exist as separate, hermetically sealed bubbles in a world of other. In reality, we're a field, an ocean, a single happening playing out in many forms. In that light, the impulse to rescue everything becomes less a noble crusade and more an anxious attempt to control life. We confuse love with management. We confuse compassion with interference. We reach into the river and try to hold it still. You already know the cost: exhaustion, resentment, and an uncanny sense that your help is somehow making things worse. This is not a call to indifference. It's a call to discernment. It's not the end of care. It's the art of caring well. This video is not a permission slip for coldness. It's a map for wise warmth. We're going to look directly at a widespread cultural spell, always help, and flip it around. We'll explore why compulsive rescuing can be interference, how stepping back can be a form of love, and why not everyone is ready for the help you want to offer. The backwards law of rescuing. You've noticed it. The more you try to control, the less control you feel. Watts called this the backwards law. Pursue security too hard, and you become anxious. Chase happiness like a prize, and it recedes. Helping can obey the same paradox. The more frantically you help, the more helpless everyone becomes. In non-dual terms, the helper and helped are not two. They co-create one process. If the helper is overfunctioning, constantly anticipating, fixing, smoothing, the other must underfunction to maintain the balance of the system. The dance adjusts to your steps. When you rush in, you inadvertently choreograph passivity. When you grab the steering wheel, the passenger relaxes, perhaps into sleep. Here's the hard part. Stepping back will trigger your fear of being unloving. Yet love and control are different elements, like oil and water. Control wants guarantees. Love participates with reality. Wu Wei is not laziness, it's intelligent timing. It asks, where is my action aligned with the river? And where am I flailing upstream, making thrashing into a virtue? Paradoxically, when you stop over-helping, you offer someone the dignity of their own encounter with life, the only encounter that ripens them. Have you ever struggled with the guilt of stepping back from helping someone? Comment 1 if you've feared being unloving by setting boundaries. Comment 2 if you've found stepping back can actually deepen your love. Care with discernment, the floodlight and the filter. Watts distinguished spotlight consciousness, narrow, goal-seeking analytical, from floodlight consciousness, wide, receptive, contextual. The cultural command, always help, is a spotlight. Simplistic, blinding. Discernment is a floodlight. It widens the frame. Who is this person? What is the pattern? What does the situation ask of me, really? The point isn't whether to care. It's how to care, and where to invest the limited currency of your presence. Your energy, time, and resources are not infinite. They're instruments in the orchestra of your life. A master musician doesn't bang every note. They feel for the right ones and leave space around the melody. In the same way, wise care involves a filter, an attunement to readiness, reciprocity, and sincerity. Watts invites us to see that forcing the dance of life turns music into marching. The menu is not the meal, he reminds us. A theory of kindness is not kindness. Real compassion is responsive, not compulsive. It sometimes looks like a no, a pause, a boundary, a mirror. It sometimes looks like letting gravity teach what your words cannot. With that in mind, let's meet 7 types of situations where stepping back is not cruelty, but clarity. Type 1. The chronically lazy. When help becomes a hammock. There is a world of difference between the struggler and the one who has given up. Strugglers use help as a stepping stone. The chronically lazy use it as a hammock. They have decided, often quietly, sometimes theatrically, that life is too hard and someone else should carry their weight. Your first act of assistance stitches the sling. Your continued assistance lays the pillows. This isn't about shaming fatigue or minimizing real barriers. It's about patterns in the present tense. Watts's non-dual lens dissolves the story of the hero and the helpless. Both are playing roles in one scene. If you leap in as savior, the other must play saved, even when they secretly prefer to lounge. The universe, like a wise teacher, presents a test. Are they taking even the smallest steps? Or are they waiting to be fixed? The cost of enabling laziness. Stealing the necessary struggle. When you keep solving what someone refuses to attempt, you rob them of the most sacred human discoveries. I can. I did. I'm capable. The muscles of resilience atrophy without resistance. Consider the rock climber whose friend insists on holding the harness tight the whole ascent. They reach the top never having learned to trust their hands, their balance, their breath. The view is pretty, but the victory is empty. Watts's backwards law explains why your kindness may produce weakness. The more you protect someone from every pang of hunger, the less appetite they feel for their own agency. Natural consequences are life's tutors. Pain, in sane doses, is information. If you intercept it, you intercept learning. Many carriers pay bills, clean messes, make calls, draft emails, and call it devotion. But devotion to what? To a story where the other remains forever dependent? To a script where your worth depends on being needed? Type 2. The perpetually ungrateful. When gifts become debts. Some people receive extraordinary gifts with no thanks, no recognition. This isn't about etiquette. It's about orientation. Gratitude acknowledges membership in something larger, inner being, as Watts might say. It's the wave recognizing the ocean. Ingratitude often signals entitlement. I deserve this. Therefore, your gift is merely a late payment. The menu is not the meal, Watts quips, and the ungrateful confuse symbols for substance. They measure help like calories owed in a ledger. The more you give, the less they taste it. The palate dulls. The remarkable becomes expected. Soon, your generosity is an ATM. Any attempt to pause is broken service. Gratitude shrinks as entitlement grows. Consider the man who pays his friend's rent for 6 months. Instead of thanks, he hears complaints about square footage, neighborhood, inequality. When the 6th month ends, the friend is outraged, as if a debt were called in. Here the gift was reinterpreted as a contract. The subtext: by helping, you agreed to be responsible for my life. This is the trap. When kindness is read as weakness, thieves feel invited. Watts reminds us that labels veil living reality. Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. Likewise, trying to define kindness as always yes bites itself. Real kindness differentiates. If your help feeds a bottomless pit, it's not nourishment, it's disposal. Ungratefulness is not a punishable offense, but a diagnostic. It reveals a closed circuit in the receiver's heart. Pouring more electricity into a closed circuit does not light the room. It burns the wires. Type 3. The arrogant and self-righteous. Validation over wisdom. Arrogance doesn't need your help. It needs an audience. The self-righteous person comes seeking affirmation, not transformation. If your counsel challenges their identity, they reject it. The issue is not ignorance, but insulation. Pride masquerades as confidence. Its true fuel is fear. Fear that being wrong equals being worthless. So they double down, even when reality protests. Watts's line, "Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth," exposes the trap. The arrogant has defined themselves as the one who knows. Therefore, admitting error feels like self-obliteration. Your carefully researched advice lands not as a gift, but as an attack on their being. They don't lack solutions. They lack surrender. You cannot help until they recognize their need. Wisdom traditions model this boundary. Jesus states truth and moves on. No protracted debate with the determinedly deaf. In Wu Wei, you don't push the river. You plant seeds in receptive soil and keep walking. Arrogance is bedrock. It requires weather, not speeches. Let them meet the wall. Let consequences tutor what counsel could not. When humility arrives, often through fatigue, failure, or a sudden crack in the armor, your hand will be welcome. Until then, your energy feeds a theater. They pose, you perform, and the plot never changes. Real love here is refusal to join the play. Have you watched someone ignore advice until life forced their hand? Comment 1 if you've been tempted to save them from the crash. Comment 2 if you've learned the value of letting them hit the wall themselves. Type 4. The habitually wicked, when helping means abetting. Wickedness here is not a bad mood or a single mistake. It's a chosen pattern. Lying, cheating, manipulating, harming without remorse. When confronted, the wicked don't repent. They reframe. They use language like camouflage. Help is sought not for transformation, but for fuel, funding, cover, cleanup. To assist the wicked is to become an accomplice. This is not melodrama. It's mechanics. If you lend your credibility, they borrow your halo to hide horns. If you lend your effort, you amplify their reach. Wisdom traditions worldwide warn, don't support evildoers. Not because you're better than them, but because you become them by extension. Watts's polarity principle reminds us, light and dark co-generate. But acknowledging polarity does not mean feeding darkness. It means seeing the play of forces clearly. Wu Wei aligns with the current of life, which moves toward coherence, honesty, relational depth. When someone repeatedly chooses violation, the most compassionate act is withdrawal of supply. Mercy without truth is sentimentality. Truth without mercy is cruelty. Align them by stepping back. The temptation is to believe your love can turn their tide. Love can do astonishing things, but it cannot override free will. If you keep bailing water from a boat someone keeps drilling holes in, you are not saving them. You are volunteering to sink. Step onto the shore. Signal the lighthouse. Let the storm and the night do their teaching. Type 5. The incurably foolish, refusing the life preserver. A fool is not someone with low IQ, but someone who refuses to learn. They repeat the same mistakes, reject feedback, and appear in crisis like migrating birds. This evokes your rescue impulse. They're drowning. You throw a life preserver. They refuse it. Or worse, they grab you, pull you under, and still don't swim. Wise people learn from bruises. Fools collect them like souvenirs. Their history shows recurring patterns and prior rescues. Each time, their story dramatizes their innocence and the world's unfairness. If you intervene, you interrupt the natural consequence, the only teacher they haven't fired. Type 6. The master manipulator. Stories as nets. The hardest to detect is the manipulator who rarely demands. They narrate. They do not ask you to give. They make you want to give. They weaponize your goodness, your desire to help, your guilt about saying no. Today, they are the victim. Tomorrow, the hero who almost made it. But for one tiny obstacle you could remove. They tailor every story to every audience. If you cross-check, you find inconsistencies. If you press for details, they fog the room. If you stop giving, they vilify you and glide to the next target. Helping them does not help them. It feeds a system, a parasitic ecology of attention and resources. Practical cues. Insist on transparency, timelines, and measurable steps. Reduce verbal contact. Increase observable criteria. If every conversation ends with your commitment and their delay, close the loop. Say, kindly and clearly, when you complete X, I'll consider Y. If anger erupts, you found the truth. The bond was never love. It was access. Type 7. The unrepentant rebel. Knowing better, refusing better. This person is not ignorant. They've been taught, warned, corrected. They nod in agreement, quote your advice back to you, and revert the moment you turn away. Their defiance is not adolescent fire-seeking maturation. It is a settled pattern of choosing the jagged path, because the smooth path asks for honesty. They are difficult to release, because their potential is obvious. You see, vividly, what they could be if they stopped fighting themselves. Hope keeps you invested long after the evidence says otherwise. But change must originate within. You cannot want someone's freedom more than they do. You cannot fight their war while they sell the ammunition. Overinvestment exhausts you and leaves them unchanged. Let your care become a mirror, not a leash. Reflect reality when asked. Step aside when not. Trust the larger choreography, the mysterious intelligence that sometimes requires a person to hit bottom before they bounce. What, then, is the heart of wise helping? It is the union of compassion and clarity. It is remembering that life is not a machine you can fix, but a dance you can join or sit out. It is the courage to let the music teach what your mouth cannot. It is, as Watts would say, participating in the universe's play without pretending to be stage manager. You are not tasked with saving anyone. You are invited to meet each moment with awake kindness. Sometimes that looks like a meal, alone, a late-night drive, a spare room. Sometimes it looks like silence, a boundary, or the simplest sentence, I love you, and I trust you to meet your life. That trust is not indifference. It's faith, to trust yourself to the water. You extend the same faith to others, that the same ocean moving you is moving them, and that the waves learn by crashing as much as by gliding. In letting go of compulsive rescue, you dissolve the illusion of the separate savior. You stop playing God and start playing, with care, with timing, with humility. You become, in Watts's phrase, an aperture of the universe that lets light in, not a frantic hand trying to hold the sun. And then, something quiet happens. The muddy water clears. Not because you stirred harder, but because you finally stopped. You don't have to become cold. You get to become clear. There is a tenderness in boundaries, a warmth in honest no's, a profound generosity in letting consequences teach. You can carry fewer people and love more. You can give less frequently and help more deeply. You can step back not with rage or resignation, but with reverence for the intelligence of life. From this day forward, treat your care as a sacred resource, not an endlessly siphoned fuel. Distinguish the struggler from the lounger, the grateful from the entitled, the humble from the self-righteous, the repentant from the wicked, the learner from the fool, the sincere from the manipulator, the willing from the defiant. Not to condemn, but to calibrate. The point isn't to build a wall, it's to grow a gate, one that opens to those who step forward themselves and closes to winds that only scatter seeds. Ask yourself, who in your orbit needs you to let go so they can fall and rise? Who has mistaken your kindness for a contract? Who must face their own ground, their own gravity? Where can you replace interference with faith? Where can you, at last, practice wu-wei, acting where the current carries and resting where the river says, not here? Try this experiment for 1 month. Before every yes, pause, breathe, ask, does my help multiply their action or replace it? Does it support growth or subsidize avoidance? If I withdrew, would natural consequences do better teaching? Then, respond with courage. Offer guidance once. Offer structure twice. Release on the third refusal. Watch what changes, most of all, in you. Life is not a journey to a finish line where everyone you carried crosses at once. Life is music. Its point is participation now, not arrival later. Let your care be rhythmic. Let your boundaries keep time. And when in doubt, remember Watts's gentle provocation. Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. Sometimes the bravest love is to stop stirring, step back from the bank, and trust the river to do what rivers do. Move us all toward the sea. Where in your life are you ready to stop stirring the muddy water? Comment 1 if you're committed to clearer boundaries. Comment 2 if you're still learning how to discern when to help and when to step back.